What's up? We're talking about boundaries today. And when I'm talking about boundaries, I'm talking about, those things that we put in place so that people don't overstep the bounds, right? It's like, stop, don't cross that line, stop, don't knock the stick off my shoulder, stop, do not double dog dare me. We're going to go into boundaries and how successful women master three of the life changing boundaries in order to manage their stress. And we're going to do that in just one moment. Hello there. Where are my women over 40? Women over 40 out there, raise your hand, drop a comment in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Marcyline Bailey, and I am your host tonight for Stress Talk Live. This is the place where we help women over 40 to live healthier lives through strategic stress management and solution focused self care. Needless to say, we dive deep. We're not just giving you surface level stress relievers. We're telling you and sharing with you how to go deeper, how to figure out what is actually the cause of your stress, how to relieve that stress in a way that fits you and your lifestyle, and how to find joy in your life through gratitude and grateful living. So here we are. Let's talk about what we're going to share today. So, I'm a woman over 40. Yes, I am. If you didn't know, you can see some of that gray in there. That'll give the sign that I am a woman over 40. When we're talking about boundaries, it is so important for us because we're doing so many different things for so many different people. And what we've learned is that the strategies that we used in our 20s and our 30s do not serve us as well any longer. And we've got to come up with better ways to manage our time, our physical health, as well as our emotions. And we can do that by set boundaries, establishing boundaries around us, and around those things in our lives that are very important. So we're going to be talking about that. And I'm going to share with you just an overview because I want to spend some time in the upcoming month in July on boundaries. So stick with me, and as I said, drop some comments in the comment section so that I know that I'm hitting some notes for you. And if you need to know some other things around boundaries, let me know that because I'll also share some resources for you as well. And I do plan to share resources with you during this series of live streams. So, first and foremost, I always ask you to like, follow, and subscribe to ML Bailey Consultants. You'll find me on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Yeah, you also find me on LinkedIn as well. Go to Tap Link because there's some super duper things on Tap Link that you can learn a little bit more about me and some resources for you. I've started a Substack. I'm building a Substack, and it is called Days That Matter. And it's just a part of what I'm offering to help women over 40 to live healthier life through strategic stress management and solution focused self care with gratefulness and gratitude. So go to the tap link to learn more about that. And then, as always, here's my website. You can find me there. But what are we talking about today? Let's get into it. We are talking about how successful women master these three life changing boundaries to manage their stress. If you are a woman over 40, you're juggling your career, you're juggling family, as well as personal responsibilities. Some of you have older family members who you are supporting. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot to be supportive of them, as well as to give them or to help them to maintain independence, right? And so for us, for women over 40, it can be very challenging when we're pulled in many different directions all at one time. What we really need to do, however, is to develop strategies that work for us, that fit our lives as well as our lifestyles. And today, we're going to talk about boundaries. The first thing I'd like to do is talk about what boundaries are. So I had a conversation yesterday with with someone, and we were talking about boundaries. And I said to the person, boundaries are like fences. You can have a picket fence that's a really cute decorative fence. Picket fences don't really do anything because you can see through them, you can see over them. A lot of times they're only waist high, and there's rarely a gate. There's an opening. You can just get into the property with a picket fence. But picket fences are just pretty. They're pretty things. You could also have a boundary is also like a chain link fence. We had a chain link fence around our backyard when I was growing up, and that chain link fence kept our dog in. We had a dog who didn't like anybody else except our family, and so we kept him in our fenced backyard. A chain link fence is really strong, and there's usually a gate that people have to go through in order to get into the fenced area. You can see through it though, right? You can see over the fence, you can see through the fence because it's just a crisscross metal pieces that form the chain or the links, the fencing. Okay. But chain link fences are very strong, and they're relatively inexpensive. Now, you can also have a privacy fence. Where I live, there are a lot of fences that are made of wood, and there's just boards that are next to each other going around the perimeter of the property. Or they do something where it's kind of like I forget the name of it, but the boards are not next to each other, but they're different. I'll have to describe it in the next in the next episode, you all, and I'll have the name. The idea is that with a privacy fence, you can't see through it. You can walk up to it, but you can't see through it. You might have to stand on your tiptoes or get a ladder or a step stool so you can look over it. But it just depends on how tall the fence is. Usually fences are what? Privacy fences may be 5 feet, they may be 6 feet, or they may be taller. The thing is that when you have a privacy fence, nobody can see in and you cannot see out. It provides that protection that you're looking for. Now, fences can be made with different types of material, right? I talked about a fence that was wooden. I talked about a fence that was made of chain links like metal. And I'll also talk about fences. Sometimes there are fences that are made of concrete, right? What I'm basically saying is that boundaries, we can look at boundaries like they are fences. And these fences, boundary fences, help us to establish guidelines and rules for how we're going to interact with the world around us, how we will experience the world around us, and how other people interact with us and experience us. Okay? So a boundary establishes those guidelines or rules, and they're personal, those personal guidelines or rules that establish how we interact with the world around us, how others interact with us, how we experience the world around us, and how others experience us. What's very important when we're talking about boundaries is that we want to make sure that care and attention is placed on our own individual needs and wants. That's the importance of boundaries, that we're talking about ourselves and we're talking about ourselves and we are addressing what we need. So, why are boundaries important, especially when we're talking about how we're interacting with others? Boundaries are important because we want to be able to give other people what they need in a way that helps us feel comfortable. Okay? We don't want to, you want to be able to interact with other people in a way that you feel comfortable and in a way that will make them comfortable as well. So that is the importance of establishing boundaries. And that's what's important for women over 40, especially, to establish boundaries, especially when it comes to family and especially when it comes to older members in our family, because, those roles and what's been modeled before us is not always the healthiest way for us to carry out our daily lives. But it's what we know and we do it, but it harms us. And we cannot be fully present for other people. So, boundaries, again, you can think about them like fences, different types of fences. But the bottom line is that boundaries help us to establish guidelines and rules for how we will interact and experience the world around us and how others will also interact and experience us. Okay. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. It's called Shadow Box. It's a shadow box fence. And next time I will definitely have, now that someone has helped me with the name of the fence, I will have a picture so you can see it. So let's also talk about the three types. Now there are different types of boundaries, and Nedra Tawwab, who is an LCSW, a master's level a master's level social worker, and an LCSW, wrote a book about boundaries, and I'll be sharing that book with you. I'll share a link with you as well as how to learn more about it, because it was an excellent work. But there are three types of boundaries that we want to be aware of and we want to also master. And these are the three types that I'll be sharing with you. The first one is emotional. Emotional. We want to establish a boundary around our emotions. What does that do? It allows us to freely express our emotions. Now, when you're older, you've had plenty of time and many years to practice how to express your emotions, right? In some families, it is not totally acceptable to express how you really feel. You have to sugarcoat it or you have to just not express it. That's just how families are. So we want to establish boundaries regarding how we are able to express our emotions to others, as well as how others should express their emotions to us. Because some of us have family members who really get down with it, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait, hold up. Let's just, can we just have a calm conversation? So we want to master emotional boundaries. Why? So that we can freely express our emotions in a way that is healthy, also so that others can express their emotions in a healthy manner. We also want to master emotional boundary setting because to um, it helps us to manage our energy. We expend a lot of emotional energy and resources when we're interacting with other people. And depending on the nature of that interaction, we can expend a great deal of emotions and emotional energy. That's why when we have certain conversations or we're dealing with certain people or certain situations, that's why at the end of it, we're exhausted. Have you come home after work, after a hard day of work, dealing with people, interacting with people, and you're totally exhausted? It's not like you ran a marathon, but you feel like you have. That's because you've expended a great deal of energy. And so, establishing emotional boundaries will help you to manage that expenditure. Another reason for mastering emotional boundaries so that you can understand that there's give and take in all relationships. The relationships should be as equitable as possible without one person or one group having and exerting more power over the other. It should be equitable, right? And so we want to be able to understand that give and take and to incorporate it into our relationships. So I shouldn't say the first. So one of the boundaries that we want to master and need to master is the emotional boundary. We want to make sure that we are establishing sound emotional boundaries so that we can deal with other people and their emotions and our own emotions in a way that is healthy for us. Another boundary that we want to make sure we master is related to physical. Now, when we're talking about physical, yes, we're talking about our personal space. And I'm sure we've all had a lot of practice making sure that people are not in our personal space. I happen to be a person who I don't like people to be really up on me, real close to me. And if, for those of you who know me, I'll step back. I'll give you, hey, you can have your space because I want my own space too. So personal space is part of what I'm talking about when we're talking about physical boundaries. But we're also talking about interactions with our person as well as our belongings. If you work in an office, and I guess I'm kind of quirky this way. Maybe some of you are quirky this way too. If you are, just drop I am too in the comment section. But I'm quirky in a way that if I have to sign something, or if someone comes to my office and they need to sign something, I have a pen for them. I don't let them use my personal pen. I don't like that. I don't want them touching my personal pen. I have a thing about that. I don't like when people come into my office and they move my things around. I have a thing about that. Now, it may look disorganized to you. My desk may look disorganized to you, but it's organized to me. And so I don't like when people come in and move my stuff or touch my stuff. I have a thing. So when we're talking about physical boundaries, yes, we're talking about our personal space, but we're also talking about our person and our belongings. But there's another part of physical boundaries that we want to be aware of, and that is our physical health and how we care for our own bodies, our wellness, and our well being. How many of us overlook things that we shouldn't as it relates to our health? How many of us take care of other things and other people, but we ignore our own signs and symptoms? So we want to make sure that we are mastering that part, that we are setting boundaries so that we too can take care of our physical health in a way that extends our life in a healthy way, right? So I've talked about emotional boundaries, I've talked about physical boundaries. Now, the last type of boundary we want to master is, or the one I think is important, is time. 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 Women over 40, we know that time is not our friend. When I was 18, I just figured that, hey, 18, I got all the time in the world. Now that I am not, I have an urgency about some things. I have an urgency about doing some things because I recognize that time is not my friend. I know people who have passed away in the last year. I just learned of someone, a friend's friend who just passed away, who is younger than me. So time is not my friend because I'm older and I recognize that. And we want to set boundaries around our time. And what do I mean by that? We want to make sure that we're using our time in a beneficial way, that we're not wasting it because we're not going to get it back. I mean, I can color my hair and make it darker again, at least temporarily, but the reality is I can't get 5 minutes ago back. It's not going to come back to me. I'm not going to get that minute, that 30 seconds back. Time is important. And we want to make sure that we've set boundaries so that we can enjoy and experience our time in a beneficial way. With that being said, we also want to make sure that there's balance in our lives. How many of us who work, how many of us spend the majority of our time in work, talking about work, thinking about work, doing work at home? We already spend a third of our lives in our job, but we bring it home with us. So we want to have balance. We want to make sure that we are not only enjoying our work and our experiences at work, but we're enjoying our home life. We're enjoying being, there's a gnat flying around, enjoying being who we are. enjoying the things that we enjoy. And then I've already touched upon our well being, making sure that we are taking care of our mind, our bodies, and our spirits. Okay? All right. Again, drop a comment in the comment section because I want to hear, what do you think about those three types? Physical, emotional, and time. How do they fit? And how are you setting boundaries for yourself? So let's talk about strategies. And these are very basic strategies because we only have a few minutes left. Basic strategies. Number one, let's establish some priorities. And we're going to spend some time talking about priorities in the upcoming live streams. Establish priorities. And I have suggestions about how we can establish priorities so that, everything is not a priority, right? But we want to establish priorities in a way, again, that fits our lives and our lifestyles, as well as those things that are vital. Once we have our priorities established, then we want to be able to communicate to others so that they understand this is a boundary. And we don't have to use that wording, but we're going to in later lives about boundaries, we're going to talk about how to communicate to other people so that they know what boundaries have been established around your time, around your physical being, as well as around your emotions. And then third, we've had years of practice without good boundaries, right? We've practiced, we've have habits established where we've not used good boundaries, where we've not established good boundaries. Thank you for the hearts. So we have to practice. Once we establish these boundaries and the only way we can master these boundaries is through practice. And it takes practice. And I'll be able to share with you some strategies to help you to practice establishing boundaries and sticking with them. Sometimes we will establish a boundary and we don't stick with it. Once we get through the next month in this series, my goal for you is to be able to establish boundaries and to stick with them. And the only way to do that is through practice. So, we have been talking about how successful women master these three life-changing boundaries to manage stress. We talked about what exactly is boundaries. What are boundaries? What are the boundaries? We've talked about three types that you need to master: emotional, physical, and time. And I've shared with you how we're going to establish a strategy. I've shared strategy, three things that we're going to do. We're going to establish priorities, and I'm going to share with you how to do that. We're also going to be able to communicate the structure of your boundary. You'll be able to share with others what the boundary is, and then we're going to practice so that you can stick with it. Well, that is all for today. I am so excited to see all of you here. Thank you for joining me today. I love it when you come. I look forward to seeing your comments in the comment section, whether you've watched it live or whether you're watching it on the replay. But that's all for now. I'm Marcyline Bailey. As always, take good care.